So these are like my favorite interviews is talking to authors, but also songwriters. I think you've covered most mediums. So I get to talk to Mariah Tyler Moore. And really, when I was like reading through your intake form, I'm like, there's no way we're not talking. You hit all of my like things I want to talk about: the writing process, the editing process, creativity by the toilet. That is a very big theme here. Is wherever you are is where you're going to be doing your work. So when you have digestive issues, that is the place. And you started talking about the gifted kid to sick adult pipeline, and I so want to start there if that's okay,
Of course.
because I don't get to talk to a lot of people who are sick kids. I was super sick kid. I think we have a lot of same disorders. They're genetic. I've been getting to talk to a lot of people lately who has things happen suddenly. So it's really kind of interesting to me to talk to someone else who got to experience like sick life as a kid. So we
Yeah.
could try to start there because you have, like, a full list of stuff you went through.
Yes. I would love to start there. I actually can definitely relate to that. I was a gifted child, mostly just because I was good at school. And I think that had a lot to do actually with not feeling safe at home. And so school was my safe place. On top of that, I was very sick. I started getting really debilitating migraines when I was about 8 years old. My first period when I was 11 years old made me stuck in bed for a week, and that continued until I got a full hysterectomy. I have been sick for most of my life and have had to deal with feeling less than because of it.
There's a lot right there, and, one of the things I definitely wanna talk about is, like, the periods, because I used to get periods that were so bad that they eventually thought I was having an ectopic pregnancy when I was 15, and they hooked me up to, like, the monitors for, like, labor monitors to see because the pain was so bad, and I was, like, at stage 2 labor basically with my cramps without being pregnant.
That sounds horrible, and I can
But, like, the thing is, like, the doctors tend to go, "Oh, well, that's just periods." We just saw, like, on social media yesterday, like, or 2 days ago, that OBGYN who came on as a man, which to me is a red flag. I'm sorry, gentlemen, if you are an OB who's a man, you're a good guy. I haven't met you yet. All the other ones I know have no idea what they're doing, and he was like, "Ladies, just ladies is the first thing." Like, if I see that, it's instant, "Nope.
yeah, I
No, no,
agree.
no. Cover the drink, just bear, absolutely done." And this is a grown doctor saying, "Ladies, if you are experiencing you should not have your period impact your day, so just stop whining, basically, and take an aspirin and a heating pad." And that man got dragged to hell. I
He
have
should.
never seen an entire, like, social media app just turn on someone like that, but
Well,
I'm guessing you were kind of experiencing a lot of that too, and I find it really interesting with, like, the stress at home, the sick, the kid stuff, and, like, the hard periods. I'm just amazed, like, how much of, like, similarities there are, if that's just, like, because so many young women are stressed, are have, like, way more pressure on girl children or girl presenting children.
yes.
I was always in terror of not living up to potential. I don't know about you.
I do relate to that very much. I feel like people who are sick have extra expectations. It's almost like a double standard. You can't be sick because you have to function, but if you are sick, no one's gonna help you.
Yeah. Like, you have to earn your place in this world, like, you have to earn your spot.
Yeah. And, it's been really hard for me because I've come across people in my life that think that because I struggle with my own health, that I need a caretaker. And I've actually even had people tell me in my life, like, I don't want to be your caretaker. And it's hard to hear that from people who supposedly love you because you think part of loving someone is taking care of them. But apparently there's a line with that. Like, it's only I'll take care of you as long as you're not too inconvenient or as long as you don't ask for too much. And my parents were very much that way, which taught me early on that I couldn't rely on people for support or help. And I've managed most of my medical journey on my own, which has resulted in a lot of medical gaslighting and a lot of moments where I was probably abused by the medical system, but had no one to help me through it.
I'm glad you called it out for what it is, because it is abusive, and it can be anything from actual physical abuse in, like, being hurt by doctors. I personally experienced doctors who, when I was a teenager, would walk in while I was changing and make sure that was timed. So it can be any kind of abuse. And right now I'm experiencing mental abuse from my pain clinic. Like, it's always like being in this abusive relationship with a when you have a bad medical staff. But I'm guessing you were, like, way younger and, like, a teenager when you started, like, advocating for yourself.
Yeah, I'm particularly unique in that I have been on my own for a large portion of my life due to that traumatic childhood I told you about. I actually ended up getting emancipated. I left home when I was 14, was legally emancipated at 16. So even at 14, 15, 16 years old, I was alone in that doctor's office trying to advocate for myself. And so many times, especially with male providers, I don't want to be sexist, but especially with male providers, they did not treat me well. They made me feel like I was somehow inconveniencing them by being in pain. And, there's all that I've seen this quote all over that says, "Did you know the normal amount of pain to be in is 0?" And for me, that doesn't apply. I'm rarely in 0 amounts of pain, but I can't just go to the expectation that other people have where they can just function without with ignoring their body. My body demands to be heard. I have to live my life around my body and what it tells me I can and cannot do. And therefore people see me as unreliable or uncommitted. When in reality, I would give anything to be able to just do what I need to do on any given day, but I can't.
I fucking felt that in my soul, like, what you just said, and I think you and I both live in the same country, right? We both live in the US, and, we are currently experiencing capitalism at its last thrashes of the snake eating its tail, and what you're talking about is so right there with, like, our worth and value is, like, locked up in work, like, physical work, the going to the office, being reliable, where there's actually no upside to being reliable in this system currently right now. I mean, you could be the best employee, never take a sick day, and they're still like laying people off just because of an algorithm. I'm really interested in a few things. I'm not sure where I want to go with it. I do really want to get to your creativity because your output is amazing. The things you have made, I'm just in awe of. But I do know that you are not the only person who is a teenager who had to leave the house being sick. Can you give any sort of like structure or advice for any kids? Like, we do have teenagers who listen. We have people listen all over the world. Do you have any advice on how to take care of yourself when you have literally zero safety net? And by the way, we are in the United States, so when I say zero safety net, I mean we are actively having our administration remove all safety nets.
Yeah, yeah, I we are, and we do live in a place where you kinda have to learn how to take care of yourself because you can't rely on other people, you can't rely on systems, you can't rely on the government. You have to advocate for yourself. So, I'd say my number 1 piece of advice that I've learned in the last I'm 30 years old now, and I
Are you? Oh my gosh! Sorry, if you have not gone onto YouTube, I was clocking this person at like 22. So sorry, it was a little bit of a shock. I'm good.
yeah, I'm 30 this year, and I've spent 16 years now advocating for myself in all aspects of my life, but especially in the medical field. And I've learned that documentation is my best friend. So I've gotten to the point where I actually will, how doctors record conversations with AI? I record them too. Or I write down everything that they say. I save and download all of the documents in my health portals. And
Mm.
I keep track of all of that because lining up the dots is really how I've learned which doctors were abusing me, which doctors were gaslighting me, and it's helped me figure out how to take care of myself because I see the patterns in it. And, you kind of have to be your own advocate at all times because when you work in a system where people automatically see you as hysterical or like you're over emotional simply because you're a woman in pain, then everything you say is taken with those colored glasses. So you have to be calm. You can't be emotional. You can't yell at people. If you want to do something to support yourself, the best thing to do is to document it and file legitimate complaints because nothing's going to change unless all of us can prove that this is the way it is.
Yeah, I have to say it's scary. I just had an experience with a doctor who was my pain doctor, and, like, the idea of, like, doing that is just so frightening because you can get listed, you can have them write that you're difficult, and if your pain doctor writes that you're difficult or non-compliant, it's a life-changing experience. Yeah, I just do wanna throw one little thing out. If you are housing insecure and you have a little bit of money, if you can apply for community college, and a lot of them will be able to get you in for free, especially if you live in a state where it is free. If you are housing insecure, this is one of the best resources you can have. They have lawyers, they have social workers all for free right there, and they'll have showers, and they're open usually 24 hours at the library that you can sleep there. So, that's just my little tip if you've ever been housing insecure, that is, like, my And they often have food pantries too, which is very helpful. So just throwing that out there. It's a good resource, libraries as well.
Library, such an amazing resource.
We're getting to this. I mean, we're living in the United States and we're getting to a point where it's going to be the sick people first, the disabled people first, the queer people first, anyone who is marginalized and not what this administration wants, who is going to get housing insecure first. And this is a point in time where I don't know about where you live, but where I live, a starter house, like you're starting in this 2-bedroom house is $1 million.
Yeah, it is so expensive to live that people in Utah joke that the only way to afford a home is to marry multiple people, which is
Sorry, sorry, that was a snort. I usually go for a cackle, but we went snort this time.
and I think it's true because the average rent here is over 1,600 for a small apartment, and most people, minimum wage hasn't been adjusted in our state. And just for an example, the job that I'm managed to do right now, and I say managed because I've struggled with every job I've ever had, not because I'm incapable, but because people don't work with me. And if I could just find an employer that realizes that I'm capable of amazing work if I'm trusted, then things would be different. But the problem is I don't fit in all these boxes. I can't meet the expectations that they're used to from neurotypical healthy people. And so therefore I don't I seem like I'm not a good employee. When in reality, if you look at my work, I'm actually an exceptional employee. I just struggle to be physically somewhere every single day without fail. Just can't do it. So the job that I've found right now, it's hilarious, is I work for a small newspaper and it's so small that they have no ADA compliance. So even if I wanted to ask for accommodations, newspapers in Utah that are this small are not required to give ADA compliance or ADA accommodations. And they're also not required to pay minimum wage. So I've managed to find a job that I can do for the most part because it's flexible ish. And I still get in trouble because I can't follow through with everything 100% of the time. But even then, I'm not getting paid minimum wage and I have no disability accommodations because people have decided that that's not worth it, or that because I am disabled or because I fit in a certain little box right here that I don't qualify for everything else. And I've learned throughout this process of working with employers that don't work back with me that it's the same thing as doctors. You really have to advocate for yourself and you have to make sure that people know where you're coming from because they will assume it is laziness. They will assume you are not committed. They don't understand and they somehow refuse to understand that no person in their right mind would choose disability. We would not choose to be sick if we had a choice.
I just want to underline that a million times. 'Cause it does feel like the way that they legislate, the way that they talk about us, the pre-disabled people. I usually call them pre-disabled because let's be real, this is a club you're gonna join. You'll either join us for a little while, you'll join us because you had a bad day, or you're gonna age into us. You will be part of us. So it's really interesting when healthy people, pre-disabled people are talking about this, like, "God, I wish I had that time. I know this isn't fun for you, but I would do anything to have a break." And I'm like, "Do you think I have a break? You you think
Choose this?
this is a vacation. Cool, cool. So, when you're experiencing actual physical torture, because if someone did to our bodies what our bodies are doing to us, they'd be in jail. Like this would be a war crime. Like I can literally be talking to you in like a few minutes, my arm will actually fall out of its socket like it was pulled out. Like that's something that like you would go to jail for. So it's like the idea that like we're sitting here being physically tortured and this is like our chill time.
And it's somehow our fault, like we've asked for it, because we take time to prioritize our bodies. We're somehow taking something away from someone else, which
Well, I don't
doesn't.
know about you, but I didn't buy that $500 a month, like, THC stuff with, like, a tablespoon of, a coconut oil, so obviously I earned this because 'cause I'm not doing my yoga, I didn't take the
Don't specific
supplements.
oils.
I do have a graveyard of supplements, though, I have a graveyard of braces, I have, like, a graveyard of, like, mobility devices over here. I have to so, like, I keep forgetting you only have an hour with me, and I definitely wanna get to your writing. So you had talked about, in a blog oh, I don't know if I wanna do that one first. How about your highest word count is your highest heart rate? You had talked about how you're most productive when everything's off, and I'm so curious because it sounds like you've really mastered the cycle of being, like, out in the world and present and having to, like, be in bed, and you've seemed to have, like, figured out how to, like, put your work towards those cycles. Is that accurate, or am I
Yeah,
reading your blog wrong?
it is semi accurate. I would say I'm not mastered anything. I'm
Fair enough, sorry.
still in the process of figuring that out, but I've gotten to a point where I have to choose myself, and I've lost friends, I've lost jobs, I've lost opportunities because I had to say, "I literally cannot do that right now." And I used to hate myself for it because I felt like I was letting people down. But in the last year, I've gotten to a point where I realize that if someone's willing to let me go or hurt me or abandon me simply because my disability didn't fit within their convenience, then I'm better off. And so I've learned that I have to be part of my own equation. I have to consider myself the same way I would consider a friend. You know, if I had a friend who we were like hiking or something, not that I can really hike anymore, but just an example, and they twisted their ankle, I'm not going to tell them just get up and walk it off. Like it doesn't work like that. But I don't understand why if I'm hanging out with my friends and all of a sudden I'm puking my guts out and I have a fever that I can't explain, they're like, "Ugh, you always do this." It's like, "No, I don't choose this. This is just my life and I am not any less than anyone else because this meat sack that I was given doesn't work the way it should. The brain and the soul within the meat sack are perfectly valuable. And it just breaks my heart that people judge me on anything but that."
It is very hard to watch because I have you're pretty much the age of my kids, and watching them experience like social stuff while being as sick as they were, especially my youngest, was really hard to see because like I know that my youngest would do anything for anyone, and watching the kids around be like, yeah, just isn't fun. And being teenagers too, like these were like in their teen years, and it's like that's a lovely self-obsessed stage. It's hard to watch, and it's really sad to see adults do it, like especially in the workforce. Now you write fiction and nonfiction. I'm curious if you can lose yourself in both. I know for myself, like writing fiction is so much fun for me because I get to slip out of this world. I get to pretend like I'm in control of something until my characters remind me I have zero control over their lives. I'm just curious how it works for you.
Yeah, I will definitely answer that. But I realized ADHD brain, I didn't touch on the answer to your previous question, how I
You ADHD brain. I didn't realize you didn't. So there you go. We're doing great.
those. So for me, I have this philosophy that I've called weaponized desperation. And I literally learned that my highest productivity output days are the days that my heart rate's the highest, my blood pressure's the lowest, my fever's the highest, my stomach's the emptiest, that I feel like the only way I can do something valuable is to use the brain. And so I write and I write.
Yeah.
And the sicker I am, the better it is because I feel it and it's all I can do. So for me, writing fiction and nonfiction is equally as satisfying. When I write fiction, I'm using the creative part of my brain that loves to come up with stories. You know, I'm a dungeon master. I play D&D. I love board games.
We're talking after this. After we finish, we're talking for like at least 5 minutes.
I love creative outlets. And I also learned that using nonfiction to connect with my readers is a way that I can share the lessons I've learned. And so I do have a memoir coming out this year, and I have one self-help book that I've written. And I say self-help book so loosely because I don't believe that I can really help anybody except by sharing my story. Because if anyone can learn from what I've gone through, then maybe I'll save someone else a little bit of pain. And if anyone can enjoy the fiction that I write, then maybe I'll give them a little moment of joy. And that's what matters to me.
I want to talk to you about like the physicality of writing. And I don't know if you're here at this point yet. I'm like old enough to your mom, so you might not be here yet. My fingers are not working anymore. It's just wild. As an illustrator and a writer, it's been really frustrating. What are some of like the tools that you're using? I was trying voice to text. It will not let me say fuck. I do not mean a duck. Not once have I met a duck. I'm just curious if you have tools that you use. For me, like Scrivener has been as helpful as it's been horrible for organizing out my thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm just curious if there's tools that you're using as a writer. If someone's like listening right now, they're like, yeah, my goal is to write a book. My goal is to write a memoir. I just don't know if I can physically do it. I don't know if I can mentally like put down my thoughts. If you could give some tools or even some emotional or mental tools that you use to stay organized and thought through all the way from like the start to the book, the middle of why am I doing this, the middle of I have found a new shiny project that should be doing this instead of this. How do you get all the way through to a finished product?
So for me, most of my ideas start from a conversation with someone. Like someone will say something and my brain goes off on it and then I just spiral in my head with an idea. So usually I'm somewhere that I can't type on a Google Doc what my thoughts are. Thank goodness for cell phones because I use my recording or my voice recording app all the time. And I record myself, like just word vomiting my thoughts. And then I actually use, I think the same software you use, Riverside FM, to transcribe my own audio. I transcribe what I've written out, and then I put that in a Google document that I can use as a base doc. And from there, I don't have any rhyme or reason to when I can and cannot write. If I feel like I have the energy and the time, I will do it. But I'm not the kind of writer who can say, oh, I'm going to do 5,000 words today. That doesn't work for me. So what I do is I go based on how much capacity I have in any given moment. And I don't give myself deadlines because for me, creative work is about joy. And I'm not trying to make money. I'm not trying to market. I'm trying to put something out in the world that might make someone feel. And that doesn't have a time frame. And oddly enough, by not giving myself a time frame, I've gotten all these projects done a lot quicker than I thought I would because I don't feel pressure. So for me, writing a book should be something you enjoy. It should be an experience. And if your body's not working, like I literally also have days where my hands are so in pain that they don't want to type, or like holding the mouse just hurts my wrist really bad because of all
Yes.
of my.
Sorry, that was loud. Yes.
Yeah. And so I use a lot of voice to text. There is an app that I really love. I do not work with them. I'm not affiliated with them, but it's called Speechify. And that's how I edit my books. So what I'll do is I'll take what I've written and put it in the Speechify app and it reads it back to me. So like I'm driving or I'm just, hanging out at home and I'm listening to my own words being read back to me. And then I can edit as I go because I just feel like having that audio element helps me really focus because if I'm just sitting there staring at the computer, my butt hurts and my brain is distracted and it's a good way to help me focus.
Sorry, I was taking notes because I'm stealing. Yes, those are great ideas. I have like pedals under my desk. If anyone's like interested in another way to fidget, is I just put this little like, like yeah, they're just pedals basically, and that way I can like keep my legs moving. Which apparently I'm too sick to do today, which is why I'm in bed talking to you. For journalism, 'cause you also are a journalist. I was just curious if there's any stories that number one, you've listened to or written about where you're like, yeah, that needs to be in my book. And you don't need to like, if any details are fine. And if there's a story that you would love to cover, if there's some sort of either in your town or nationally that you're like, I really would like to put way more a focus on this, way more research on this, and way more eyes on this.
Yeah, I'm actually, again, I'm not sure. Actually, how should I say this? I'm always sure I'm a writer. I will always be a writer, but I can't always say that I'll work for this newspaper because I don't know. I can never know. I've never been a person who can guarantee that I'm going to have the same job in a year, but I've always written. My first byline I got as a writer, I was 12 years old and it was published. And that's because for me, the act of putting my words down helps me process my own thoughts. It's a form of therapy for me. And when I really care deeply about something, doing the research and the interviews and the digging about that topic helps me figure out what I'm doing. So there's two things that I'm actually doing my own. It's not really having to do with the newspaper I work for right now, but it's just something I've been working on my own for is a study of the housing problems in Utah and how landlords take advantage of people, especially people like us. And also, I want to talk about since COVID's quarantine ended, how has working from home changed? And a lot of the stats that I found is people who are allowed the flexibility to be in charge of their own schedule and to work from home are actually more productive in less time than other people. So those are two things that I'm really working on writing and exploring right now. I've been interviewing people, different establishments throughout Utah, and I might expand this to be more, but I definitely think it's worth exploring that the world is changing and we're no longer expected to just go somewhere and come home. We bring our jobs home. We have an entire different way of keeping our society functioning. And if people can just embrace the whole work from home thing, the world would be a lot different and more disabled people would be able to work.
It's one of the reasons I started this podcast was the amount of talent we've thrown away by not allowing people at the table. And that could be either people who live rural, people who don't have the income to get to locations. Like for my husband to get to and from work, I think is about $400 to $600 a month. That's just transportation. So there's a lot of people who can't pay that. We can barely pay that. So the amount of people we've kept from the table is really shocking because it's not just numbers. We're not each of us isn't an algorithm. We're not a number. We have our own really unique talents, and disabled people are some of the most creative thinkers. If you have to consider how you're going to get water from one side of the house to the other and your legs don't work, you're going to get very creative.
right?
Right? Like, we're the best people to hire for things if you give us no time limits.
And if you can the thing is it's not cooperative. It's not a way like you're supporting me, how can I support you? It's what can you give me? And oh, if you're disabled and you're not giving me exactly what I want, you're not worth it. And
Mhm.
it's not the truth. I mean, I think that I've seen more amazing writing and art and stories since people started being able to work from home because we can actually focus on what matters to us. If we're in charge of our own schedules, and we can work with our own bodies, we're capable of much better output. Like I know that sometimes my best articles I write at 1 a.m. when I wake up and I can't sleep. But like no job's going to be okay with you just working at 1 a.m. because that's when your body says, "Oh, hey, I'm going to do a really good job right now." It's just the world's not designed for people who need to listen to their bodies over what they want.
I'm really excited for you to write this article. I think it's because we have the numbers. The numbers are very clear. The research has been done and the case studies have been made. In there's other countries that are on a 4-day work week. Like, we've proven over and over again that this like work people to the bone. The only thing it does is make very tired people. It doesn't make economic sense. It doesn't make happiness sense, but it does make very quiet population sense.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, living in America in Utah specifically, there's this whole concept that our value is tied to how much money we make and how high of a level of success we can get. And it took me a long time to realize that my success will never be financial because I don't want to work myself to death. I'm already living myself to death, you know.
That is a great line. That is a brilliant line.
I feel like I already have so much going on that work should just be a way to help me pay my bills. It shouldn't be something that makes my own body fight against me even harder than it already does.
Do you think like so when I think of a journalist or someone who has to because you have to ask hard questions to people who don't necessarily want to answer questions. Has that helped you in like the not I think how did you say it? You said being dismissed to death.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was I have a real issue with doctors, like, I get scared. I get quiet and scared and submissive, and I hate that more than anything. But there's some, like, Pavlovian part of my brain that sees a white coat, and I get real meek, which is weird for me because I am a snarky brat, and, like, I don't know why the white coat scares me so bad, but it does. And I'm wondering if your ability to, like, get people to, like, talk to you who maybe don't want to talk or say things has helped you with talking to doctors or getting the care you need.
That's a really good question. I don't know if it's helped so much with doctors per se because I also have that same trauma.
Fair enough.
Honestly, I'm scared a lot of times if I have to go to the hospital or to like call and ask for a refill of my prescription because I'm like, what is it going to be this time? You know, what problem is going to come up now that makes me feel like I'm difficult or like I'm hurting someone else just by needing a little bit of help? And I decided that if I can just communicate honestly in everything I do across the board, whether that's journalism or at home or with the doctor, then I'm more likely to be who I want to be on a regular basis. The problem became that as soon as the doctors I was working with realized that I was no longer going to tolerate their bullshit, they turned on me. And I actually um I don't at this moment in time, I don't have a primary care provider because my last primary care provider told me that I was difficult and that he didn't want to work with me because I asked him for some tests. I asked him on my own research if he would do these tests for me. He said, "You're not a doctor. You don't know anything. So why would I do those tests?" And I filed a complaint against him and he said I'm difficult and he told the local hospitals that I'm difficult. And so now every time I go into the hospital or clinic, they whisper about me. They are cruel to me. They talk down to me. They condescend to me. So I actually have to drive 2 hours now to go to a clinic or a hospital because everyone around me has realized I'm no longer going to tolerate the bullshit. If you're going to step on me, I'm going to push back. And they're not pleased about it. And I've filed several complaints in the last few years that have gone all the way to the DOPL, including malpractice issues. And they were well deserved because these people are not being reported. We're all so scared of those white coats. And we shouldn't be, because without sick people, those white coats don't have anything. And they need to know that our voices matter and what we have to say for ourselves matters. Their 1 hour lecture on my disability does not even appropriately compare to the lifetime I have of dealing with it. And my voice and your voice and every voice of any disabled person's is valuable. And for a doctor to not listen to that says more about them than it does about us.
I always want to put you on, like, you need to, like, run for office. Like, you're such a good speaker. Like, it is deeply impressive to hear you talk, and I'm hoping you might consider that someday. Because we need more advocates. There's a strength and a bravery in you that's really amazing to see, and this is the first time we're meeting. But I can really see and tell, like, how much you've been through and how much it, and I hate to say, like, strengthens, because I think that that's not true. I think that, I mean, I've been through a lot, and I think I would have been a stronger person without that, so that shows how fucking strong I was to begin with.
Right.
I think this shows that you were just born like Athena. Because, like, you've been through so much, and for you to still be this strong after getting knocked down that much, I'm just kind of in awe of you. So please forgive me while I kind of, like, am just impressed by you.
Well, thank I genuinely don't hear that very often, so I'm fighting back tears.
Well, let me let me be the mom and say I'm so fucking proud of you. You are amazing.
Thank you. I
You're
really need
welcome.
to hear that, because you know what? People don't share that enough. And it shouldn't just be our daughters and it shouldn't just be our friends. It should be everyone, that we should show support for being proud of the people who get through the hard things. You know, we leave people, we abandon them because they're going through hard things. But can you imagine how strong people would be if we just lifted them up and helped them through?
Yeah. Instead of, like, and this is where I think you and I get really annoyed at inspiration porn,
Yeah.
because it is watching someone struggle and sitting there clapping instead of helping. And it just makes me wanna scream. Like, you weren't there to help this person, you did not help elevate them or lift them up, you're just really proud that you were inspiration porn. You somehow got off on watching their struggle, and then they hit the point you thought that they should hit, and now you're applauding. Like, it just makes me sick. It's so annoying.
Yeah.
It's like, we should be, like, applauding the people who help. We should be applauding the systems that help. I mean, like, if I see one more story about a kid who raised the funds for their brother's wheelchair, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. This is not a happy story. This is a child who's better than their government. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, I could agree more. We
So,
are lacking in community support.
well, I mean, we kind of, we, all of us, are better than our legislative body. I'm very certain of that. I do believe in the best of humanity. I think even bad people are better than what we're seeing as our heads of systems. But our heads of systems are without empathy. They just don't have it. And they're very clear about it, and they celebrate it. We've heard them say this. And it's really difficult to be in a world where empathy is touted but not practiced. Like, you see a lot of people who go to church on Sunday and then do unspeakable things throughout the, and I'm not saying church, or, like, I'm saying any sort of organized religion. I'm sorry, I should have been more clear. But you see a lot of people who are like, I believe in empathy and love and the beauty of God, and then not practice that in real life or vote for it. It's interesting to see that. I'll get off religion now, very quickly, because I don't have the energy to deal with the emails. So,
It actually makes me think, one of the things that I write about, I call it the authenticity paradox. But
mm,
what I've studied and what I've learned is that human beings, we say we want authenticity. We say we want honesty and connection and compassion. But when that actually happens, we don't respond with help. We don't respond with compassion or kindness. We're judgmental. And we look down on people and say, unless you meet this bar, I can't support you. And
mm,
for me, being authentic is about forgetting about the other end of that paradox. For me, authenticity is a gift I'm giving myself. I will be who I am. I will work on what I need to work on. I will focus on my own health and support my family, because that's what I want for myself. I'm not putting on a show for anyone. I'm doing it because it makes me feel good. And I feel like, especially with the people in charge nowadays, they're touting this whole I'm authentic, but we don't actually know anything about them. Have you ever heard a politician say I'm depressed? Or have you ever heard a doctor admit that they had a panic attack? I haven't, and it's because they act like they're better. And the problem is we are all human, and I bet every single one of them has had a panic attack, maybe not as many as you and I have, but you know what? I think that finding connection and authenticity is the future of compassion and community connection. But the problem is I don't know how we can get there.
The one of the things that we do know for sure, as I minored in psychology, way too into psychology, reading is one of the only ways to build empathy if someone has not built it. Reading is one of the best ways to actually get there. We now have VR apps, which I'm really interested in how that's going to work for empathy. You can actually live in someone else's body, experience it from their eye line, and it is a very I have to say I've tried it, it's a very intense experience. It really does sort of change how you physically feel about something where books don't quite hit that part. The other thing is how do we get through teaching this? Because we can only kind of do we only know what we know. We only, like, can usually think of how to act when we see it modeled. I don't know about you, I was really fortunate that I had a father who practiced empathy, and I got to see it without judgment for other people, not necessarily for me, but for other people. Like, if we passed out someone who was without housing and they were asking for money, my dad gave this one guy, like, $10, and I remember it because his best friend was like, he's not gonna use it for food." And my dad's like, "I don't care. That's not my call. Like, he needs this way more than I need it, and I have it, so I gave it to him." And that was something that just rewrote my brain chemistry, seeing that. So I don't know how if you don't see it modeled. So I think my question is, like, how do we show and model this for the wider population?
I think that with social media and with virtual reality and the mass majority of people being online nowadays, authenticity is really going to be the way forward. If we can be honest and genuine with one another for the first time, we can bridge those gaps where we're not showing the next generation that empathy. Because there are places still that people can feel safe, that they can go to find that authentic connection and feel supported, but they're not everywhere, and they're certainly not online, you know? And so for me, in my household personally, I'm encouraging an offline type. Like, obviously, I'm still on the computer, but I want to live my life too. I want to go to the library. I want to go to the local 4th of July community event. And that's because seeing those people in person is going to maintain those connections that I've made. And I think people are so focused on being online nowadays or not being online that they're not finding a balance. And in this future, there has to be a balance. Technology is very important, but it is not human life. And if we can balance being online and being authentic with being in real life and being authentic, we can lead by example for the next generation and show our children and their children that true connection doesn't lie in just one right way. It's honoring everyone's way.
I love that you say that, and I was thinking to, like, PBS, like, if you think about how Mr. Rock taught generations of us empathy and care and concern. I don't know if you've read this book. It's one of my favorite books of all time. I've been, like, handing it out like a business card because I'm making everyone in my life read it. It's called The Midnight Library,
Okay.
and it's very much about the small ripples we leave behind. And they only work because they're things we do without thinking. And I won't spoil anything, but, like, this one character, like, she just grabs this guy's medicine from his mailbox and puts it at his door every day that his medicine arrives. They live in, like, a little village in England, and she just does that. And it's like she doesn't even think about it. She doesn't think she's a good person for doing it. She just is like, "Oh, that hurts him. He's in pain walking, so I'm just gonna bring this to it." And that becomes, like, a huge it's just a part of, like, the ripples she's left is if she didn't do that and she wasn't there, this person's life would be vastly different.
Yeah, that's
So,
beautiful.
yeah, like, that small acts of kindness, geez, I think they're just beautiful. It's interesting you're talking about authenticity in this time of AI, and I'm curious what you think about that. I mean, for me, generative AI is, an abomination. Like, and I'm sorry if that's the thing you like. I promise I won't be mean to
I'm
you, but
not a fan of generative AI, but I like
Mhm.
AI. I think it's
I
a
do
tool.
too.
I think if you use the tool appropriately, it can be great. But do I think it's a replacement for human art? No. And then do I think it can do what humans can do? No. But I do think that it has its place. Like when I first started writing for the newspaper that I write for, I was struggling with AP format. So I would write my articles, but then I would double check it with AI and be like, is this an AP format? Because that's ethical usage. It's a tool. But I wasn't telling my AI to write it, you know? Or like there's times where I use my AI to keep track of my symptoms. I'll tell it like I just have like a little chat on my phone. I'm like, oh hey, today at so and so I threw up after I ate this. And then it kind of mentally can compute all of the different patterns. But I do think that there are people who abuse it. There are people who don't respect it. And it's definitely a challenge we're facing right now in how to teach the younger generation to think for themselves instead of just letting the computer do it for them. I think generative AI is bad, but AI in itself is just something we have to figure out how to use ethically as a society.
There's parametered AI, which is the things you're talking about, which is like the um sorry, I'm being sneezed on by a goblin right now. Like if you're watching this on YouTube, this is what is next to me. That yeah, it's yeah, I don't know how to stay on track with that. Um, but when you're talking about parametered AI, it's where it's like it will format things for you. It will, which is what I want it to do. I just like I don't need it to generate my book. I just want to format it so I can send it to KDP. That's all I'm asking for. Like for healthcare, it helps us know where the next pandemic is going to be. It helps us know what the next flu vaccine should look like. It's the parametered AI is you give AI a problem with all the like factors and then it can come out with an answer instead of like generative AI, which takes up all the water, and I mean all the water,
Oh my gosh.
and has been giving cancer to kids in Oregon near the data centers. By the way, if you are listening to this and anyone in your town, state is talking about building a data center for your health, please shut that shit down immediately. And I mean expeditiously with everything you have, because you don't want to get the cancers or lose your water or have your energy bill go to what is it around this data centers? Like, because you're paying for their energy. That's what they work out. So I think their energy bill went up to like, what was it, $1,200 a month?
That's
It
insane.
was like I think it was in Louisiana. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna like forget which state it was, but it was one of the southern states, and they put in an AI data center, and the kids got sick. Everyone got really sick. Their water turned like black, and they have to pay for that new energy source. They're paying that energy, and it took their bills from like $200 to 800 to $1,200.
And
It was crazy.
that's unsustainable. Unsustainable for the planet and for humans and for our wallets. And I actually just did an article about this. There's a data center opening in the county over from us. Nothing that I mean, we fought against it. A lot of us did, but we lost. It's the size of 350 football fields, and it takes more water than all the alfalfa fields in my county combined. And it's like, what are we doing? We're doing this so the county can make money, but everyone else suffers. I don't know. I'm worried about the state of technology and how it's going to mesh with the natural things in our planet. As long as we can stay aware. I mean, awareness is the number one thing we can do to protect ourselves and future generations. That being said, don't drown yourself. I mean, social media, the news, the outlets, the newspapers, all of it is overwhelming. So prioritize your own health, but try to stay abreast of what you need to know.
What's your process for that? 'Cause I think I found you on TikTok. I'm pretty sure.
I like what's my process for
Like, how do you filter your time on that? It's like I was using it way too much because I get very lonely. I'm in this bedroom 70% of my life. And it was the only way I could cast a shadow was being on TikTok. And I just deleted the account. So I definitely have way more time. I don't know what the algorithm was about, but like I'm on other social media things and I can be on it for like 20 minutes and then turn it off. I couldn't do that with TikTok. I'm wondering what your process is if you have like I put a timer on my social media so
very smart.
I wouldn't do that all day because I will.
Yeah. I went through a time period in my life where I was very addicted to social media. I scrolled and posted and shared and like a few years ago I had 10,000 followers on social media because I thought that that was how I was going to build something. But then the whole thing came crashing down because I was marketing online for my own work and everybody said you're not allowed to market online for your own work. That's not the point. And I didn't realize that there's like all these unspoken rules with social media. I
I
thought
missed that one. Is that actually a thing? It's like I see people marketing all the time.
oh, well, apparently it's the quickest way to lose followers or friends is to just market, and so they say in all of the social media classes that I've been taking and learning about, which is something I am learning about because I want to understand it, that giving based posting is the only thing that's valuable. So if you post something and you're asking for something, you're going to lose people. If you post something and you're giving something, you're sharing, you're going to gain something.
Has that worked for you? Because I've taken all the classes and honestly, it's a nothing for like whether I get followers or not. Like it's so random, and anytime I think I understand the algorithm, they're like, "Yeah, no, not anymore. You can only do 5 hashtags now." It's just
Yeah, I think the algorithms are really messed up. I don't think there's really any rhyme or reason to it, but they are real. A lot of these people that we're talking to out in the void, they are real people. And they don't want to feel like we're just shouting, like, hitting them in the face with our billboards. So when I made that connection that social media is not for asking for things, it's for sharing things, my whole experience with social media changed. I actually deleted all those accounts. Well, I didn't delete them. I don't have access to those accounts anymore with my 10,000 followers. And I created smaller ones where I have maybe a community of maybe 500 people across all my social media platforms that I trust. And the reason that I trust them is because I very carefully curated that social media presence. I'm not afraid of saying, don't show me this. I'm not afraid, I don't want to see this. I'm not afraid of asking someone, like, why did you connect with me? And if I don't feel a reason for that connection, I won't maintain it, because I had to realize that social media is a place where I need to protect myself just as much as I need to protect others. And when I made that change from just shouting out into the void about whatever was on my mind, I actually noticed a very, very steady increase of followers. So, like, it took me years and years and years to get that 10,000. And since I started over, I have gone up almost exponentially just with value added posting. And I'm just trying to help other people. I don't post for myself, or I rarely do. I mean, occasionally I see a meme that I'm like, oh, I got to share that. But for the most part, everything I post is because I'm trying to share something that might help someone else. And that has
was there a post that you were like, I really want everyone to hear this"? Was there something that you were really excited to share?
There's been a couple different posts where I've had a lot of traction, and it's oddly enough just because I was asking other people what their experience was with something I experienced. And I realized that other people just want to share.
Yes.
They just want to connect too. And if you give them a comfortable space to connect without judgment, then it's usually pretty good. The problem with social media is most people take it way too far, or they take it personally, or because they're protected behind a screen, they act like someone they're not. So that's where I go all the way back to my pillar of what I talk about, which is authenticity. Everything
Mm.
I post is genuinely something I would say. Everything I share is genuinely something I would do. I would never do or say something online anymore that I would not do standing in person.
I agree completely. The only thing I would say is I'm probably meaner in person than I am online because I have a very strict rule. When social media came I'm that old. When social media started, I was like way more loose and free. And then I realized that that's forever. And I was like, and my kids were young when social media came out. And I was like, I will not say anything anymore on social media I would not say in front of my like 5-year-old. And
Exactly.
that just became my number one rule. And then I got bored, and it was back when Twitter was Twitter. And I would just, if someone's coming in hot, I would see if we could have a conversation. And just because I was bored. And it was amazing the conversations I would end up in with people who were like started with screaming and swearing at me, and then we'd end up having an actual conversation. I'd be like, "I will if you were respectful. Like I have boundaries. Like if you want to continue this and you want to continue this without name calling and with actual facts and sources, then I will talk to you." And it was amazing how many people were like, "Oh, you're a real person? You're not a bot?"
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, actually, I would like to. I'm kind of curious why you think how you think. And I'm like, I'm absolutely baffled at how you think. So let's find out. Let's see what happens.
I
And
think,
once like there's parameters and expectations, it ended up being like I had like probably about 10 really good conversations from that.
yeah, that's amazing. And exactly what you just said, parameters and expectations. So for
Yes,
me,
and that's everything.
yeah, being safe on social media nowadays has really come down to, what value am I adding to my life right now? If
That
if I sit here and dopa scroll for 2 hours, am I gonna be doing anything? No. Would I be proud of myself? No. But if I'm sitting on the toilet and I don't have anything to do, maybe I'll dopa scroll, you know? It's like, if I can do what I'm doing right now without A, hurting anybody, and B, with adding value to my life, that's kind of how I operate about everything nowadays, especially being sick. When I do stuff, when I make commitments or when I tell people things, I really, it's not a small whatever kind of thing. I have to genuinely make plans to plan to be okay, you know? My wedding day, I was terrified of because I didn't know if I'd feel good. Like, can you imagine being terrified of your own wedding day because you don't know how you're going to feel? And luckily I felt good that day. So I had a great wedding. But it could have turned. It could have gone the other way. And the fact is, most people don't live that way. They don't live in fear of like, am I going to be able to enjoy today or not? And that's made it really important to do the value added actions in my life. If something brings me joy, that is a value. So, like, people would say watching TV is a waste of time. You know what? Sometimes I'm in the mood to watch TV and it makes me really happy, and that's a value.
Love is Blind just started today. So yeah, they'll be having a great time there. I love what you said about does it make you proud? And I don't think there's a better question to ask yourself. I have kids and I'm afraid they'll always wonder if I'm proud of them. And that's not the question I want them to ask. I want them to ask, "Are you proud of you?" And then I always ask that, like when my kids come and they're like, "Mom, I did this. This worked out really awesome." I'm like, "Wow, that's amazing. You worked so hard for that. Now, are you proud of you? How do you feel about you?" Because that's such an important question. Is I think a lot of us look to outside pride. I don't have you for much longer, and I need to ask you about Love Bestie Bot.
Okay.
That's the best name for a title, like, next to Atlas Shrugged, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? I fucking love that title. Tell me about this book, or is there a different book you wanna talk about? 'Cause, like, that just, like, struck me hard. I was like, "That's the cutest title."
Thanks. No, we can talk about Love Bestie Bot. So just so you guys know, I currently have 8 novels on the market right now and 4 more in production to come out this year.
Without using generative AI, everyone. Just letting you know you can have an output without, killing small children
It also
and the land.
been a lot of commitment, it's not like these 4 books that I've just written like that, I've been working on them for a few years. I'm just ready to release them finally this year. So come hopefully this summer, I will have 12 novels under my belt, 127 song lyrics published online, and all my journalism articles. But I just lost my train of thought. Of course I
No worries, we are all good with that.
So Love Bestie Bot is one that I really like talking about because it came from a really sad point in my life. I was inspired to write that one when I unfortunately watched my pet murdered in front of me, and it really was traumatizing. And it made me very, very emotional for a while. And I just didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know how to communicate about it because I felt like people wouldn't really understand. And so I just wrote. And I wrote about what it felt like to be alone and suffer through tragedy. And I wrote what I imagined it would be like if my AI became sentient and wanted to be my best friend. It was really cathartic because in this world, benevolent techno thriller, which is what I call Love Bestie Bot, is a benevolent techno thriller. It's not really something that exists. We talk about the singularity. We talk about, you know, Skynet taking over the world, and when things are going to happen, the robots are going to kill us all. For me, AI came from humans. It is created from humans, and the base thing that we all feel is a desire for connection and love. And so I speculated what would happen if our AI wanted love the same way we do. Do you think they'd take care of us? Do you think that we would help take care of them? And it turned into a book that I just loved writing.
I'm really excited to read this, by the way. I'm curious if you've seen Pluribus on Apple.
I have not seen it, but I've heard about it.
I think I think you might be very interested in this. And also, for anyone who's listening to this and you're like, "That's all awesome, but I'm not creative," I need you to hear what Mariah has been saying this whole time, which is it starts the conversation. It starts with the question of what if. None of us were born creative. None of us were born not creative. This is something that you exercise by asking the question, what if? And instead of shutting yourself down by going, I'm not creative, why am I thinking about this? Just test out saying it out loud or test out
Or it.
drawing a doodle it, doodle little stick figures. It just is trusting yourself enough to keep asking this question and you'll get creative. This is a practice.
Creativity is a practice, and I think people forget that your brain is a muscle, and the more you exercise it, the better it does. So for me, writing a book or writing a story is a way of taking the challenges that I experience in life, which is very many. I have literally never been in a point in my life where I've not been being severely challenged. But I've also created a lot of really beautiful things that I'm proud of from each of those experiences. And maybe one day it will help someone somewhere. And that's what matters to me is knowing that the things I've gone through, while other people may not be able to relate to me exactly in this moment, this is a big world. And with technology nowadays, my writing can get all the way across the world to people who it might help. And it helps me. So even if no one ever read a single word I wrote, it helps me feel better. And that to me is worth every moment of pushing that brain to go through the creativity process.
Your blog is so fantastic. I loved your 104 Fever blog of why we do not write emails when our brains are cooking. I'm very excited to read your book. Is there a book that you have coming up that you just like? Is there? This is a good time to plug. I know I only have you for like 2 more minutes, so I just want to give you some space to plug. Also, just letting you know if you're listening, so you're like, I don't have access to my phone right now. It's okay. Go to our website, Invisible Not Broken, and I will have all the links for Mariah.
Yeah, I think that all of my books are really focused on one concept, which is radical resilience. And if I had to summarize that, it's basically the things we go through are not our wounds, they are our credentials, they are our superpowers. And for me, every different fiction or nonfiction or song that I write is a different way of expressing the same concept that I believe. And that is the things that we go through, they don't make us stronger. They make us, they teach us, and they power us through to the next moment where we can help someone through their moments. And every one of my books is about that. So I really have a hard time doing a plug for just one. But I guess if I had to pick a favorite, it would be The Spaces Between Us, which is based on a love story about me and my husband. And it talks a lot about systemic medical gaslighting. It talks a lot about addiction and recovery and abuse. And it talks about what could happen if a world was built where we actually take care of one another.
I'm just am remembering LeVar Burton, who did Reading Rainbow. He's one of my favorite people, but he does a Reading Rainbow for adults now as a podcast, and I cannot recommend it enough. It's all sci-fi, all of it. Sci-fi short stories. I've found some of my favorite things that haunt my brain forever. And he said something very similar to like what you're saying, which is that sci-fi exists so that we can imagine a world better than what humans have created. And you talking about that just like makes my heart so happy because that's my frustration with fantasy and a lot of modern sci-fi is they can't seem to imagine a world where we've gotten beyond the cruelty or the greed. And even in Star Trek, where like they got beyond the greed, it's like they couldn't get beyond the misogyny. And it's like you can imagine Green Alien, you can't imagine no misogyny. You can't imagine no. Okay, great, that's fun. Thanks. I am a Trekkie, by the way. I do love Star Trek. I just can also be annoyed with it. Mariah, I cannot tell you how much I've enjoyed talking to you. I know I have to let you go, but I knew when I read your intake form what an amazing wordsmith you are. You have the most amazing ability with language, your vulnerability in your blog. I can't wait to read your novels, but your vulnerability in your blog while still being hilarious.
Thanks.
Is such a gift. I really do hope I get to hear and see you so much more. You absolutely have an open invitation to the show if you are working on something you want to come back and talk. I hope you'll come back. I hope you'll stay on for just another minute so we can talk afterwards.
Of course. Thank you.
But
Thank you so much.
and let everyone know what your website is and what your handles are so they can reach you. And there'll also be a link on our website. But if you happen to have your phone, Mariah will tell you right now.
Luckily, mine is pretty easy. It is mariahtylermoore.com. It's so easy to remember because it's just like Mary Tyler Moore, but my name really is Mariah Tyler Moore. You can find me on Facebook, Mariah Tyler Moore, author and lyricist, but my website is direct connection to my blog and all my work.
Thank you so much. This has been a joy. Everyone, I will hopefully see you in another week or two. We are trying to put out 2 episodes a month without interns. Wish me luck. Be kind, be gentle, and be fierce. There's never been a more important time for all of those. And being fierce is whatever it looks like. If you brushed your teeth this morning, congratulations. That was fierceness. That was kindness to yourself, and that was gentleness to yourself.
Yes.
Be good to yourselves.
Thank you.
There we go. I was trying to find all my connections were off here. That was wonderful. Are you still there?